Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the World Explorer podcast. This is the podcast where every week we take a random prompt and we create an entire world around it. My name is Casey, and I'm joined with Isaac.
Hello there. And usually each week I give the initial prompt for the world building. However, this week it is Casey who has a world building prompt for us. So tell us, Casey, what shall we be world building today?
So this is actually based off of a project I did for school. So I did a project about yarn and the myths and legends behind it. And so one of the cultures that I focused on was an Asian myth where thread connects people. So when two people are connected either through like a bond or a friendship or something, there's supposedly a thread that connects one person to the other person that's like symbolic. And I thought it'd be interesting to world build a world where we could actually see those threads so that they're visible. So we can actually see these physical connections that people have between each other.
Okay, so my initial question is, how strong does the bond need to be to create the thread? Because I'm thinking if a bond is something, it could be something as little as you said hello to someone and then suddenly that creates a thread. Suddenly there are going to be so many threads, and if everyone is able to see these threads, assuming that you don't have to do something special to see them, but you just see them all over the place normally, then everyone's eyes are going to be filled with thread.
Yeah, it'd be a mess. So, at least in like the Asian mythology, it only happens when there's like a really, really strong connection. So it's like best friends, lovers, parents, and siblings, that type of thing.
Okay. But now in my mind is already going to 100 different locations with this idea. But one of my immediate thoughts was, what about a connection with your enemy? Like if
I would imagine that there'd be a thread there, and that could cause problems.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking of like all the implications this sort of thing has. Implications, it like,
especially if it's like color coded.
Yes. And if
so you could see if two people really hate each other or if two people really like each other, you'd know, like everyone could see it.
It would make the interesting like love triangles a lot different in stories where it's like you got two guys that are after one girl and they're pretending to get along just fine with each other, but really they hate each other. Like that wouldn't work anymore.
There'd be no like backstabbing in general. Like people would have to be very honest about how they feel about each other, and everyone can see how they feel. And also, I feel like the threads would be kind of see-through and translucent, so they wouldn't be that disrupted. They kind of just exist. It's not like it's a solid thing, because that would get obnoxious really fast.
I imagine them being sort of translucent and glowy, like a small glow. But I'm also wondering, do we want to make this entire world where everybody always sees the threads, or is there a way to hide the threads, or is there a way or is there something you have to do to be able to see the threads? Are they not always visible?
That's actually a good point, because there is the idea that like one of the two people can always summon the thread themselves, and so as long as one of those two want to do it, then it's visible, otherwise it's not. So you could still see how someone feels about you because you can summon it to see like what the color, if there even is a thread there. But it's not always there, so that's an idea.
Yeah. And I'm also thinking about like just how many threads are gonna be connecting to some people. Because, some people can get like very meaningful, deep connections with like 50 people. Actually, I'd say a lot of people can manage to like achieve 50 people that they have a close connection with. Or even 100 people.
Yeah.
In which case, that's a lot of threads going off in all sorts of directions, which is why I'm thinking you either need to do something special to like see the thread, or maybe they only appear when people that you're connected with gather closely together. But even then, if you have like family gatherings and everyone's got a thread connecting to everyone, or if you've got like a wedding and you invite everyone you know.
Gosh.
Like,
yeah. I think it's a valid point, the idea that the idea that like one of the two people can summon it, because there's also the thing that intrigues me most about this idea is it's a way to always find people, in the sense that like, well, especially in the mythology, the whole purpose of the thread is that it's supposed to guide you to the person. And in the actual like myths and legends, the thread summons itself even without you knowing it. So the connection exists. It predicts the future pretty much. It's a fated thing, but in here it's probably less that and more just connections you make yourself.
Yeah, here would be more the thread doesn't appear until you've made the connection.
But I think I'm leaning towards one. Either person can summon it, but it's so you still have that interesting trope like if a girl thinks a guy likes her, she can show off the thread and see if he actually does, and so you can't hide that type of stuff. Or if an enemy is trying to find enemies are trying to find each other, they're always going to be able to because there's that bond that shows them exactly where they are. There is no hiding.
I imagine it, of course, being a blood red.
Okay. Well, red's usually the ones for lovers. At least that's in the original
Oh,
myth.
yeah, that... It does mean both, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. I mean, that could get confusing fast.
Yeah,
It's just, oh...
Huh.
Yeah. I don't have an idea for colors. I just feel like they'd be different colors.
I feel like they would be, but I feel like we gotta pick some colors for them. Like,
Yeah. Like, I've always imagined friendship being, like, gold.
I was thinking
Because I think of, like, golden trios and stuff.
maybe something like silver for friendships, gold for like the closest of friends, or maybe gold for family.
Gold for family and silver for friends. And I do believe that threads can have mixed colors in them. Because, you know, sure you have family bonds, but if you have an abusive family, you'll have that family bond, but there'll also be like that darkness inside the thread as well to represent that.
You say darkness, so the threads are black. How about that? Red is love, black is
Sure.
black is enemies.
This also means that parents can't hide from their responsibility with their children because that bond just exists naturally, so a child can always find their missing parents. So you could throw those missing parent tropes out the window because they can always find their parents. I don't know what that creates, like society in which parents can't, like, I guess adoption is a harder thing to do because...
What if there was a way to sever the string so that you either hide permanently that there was ever a string there, or once you sever the string, the connection is lost. And any emotional feelings you have towards someone, and what they have towards you, suddenly disappears.
I guess that could be an interesting story element, but it also seems like a cop-out for a lot of, like, the tension or the reason that this thread makes stories interesting. Because if you can always hide from your enemies by just cutting the thread, then what was the point of the thread in the story?
I see that, like, I think that maybe we would have to make this a more limited ability. But I do think that if it's you could have interesting stories where someone is trying to hide something and they see their only method of hiding it is get whatever it is they need to cut it, like some magical scissors or something that will cut the thread, and then
The Three Sisters scissors from another mythology. You know, just mix all of them
yes, but I see this also as an interesting storytelling element of the thread is cut, but now someone is trying to find somebody, but they can't use any of the usual methods that most people would have, or you got this person that's on the run trying to cut it, or maybe there's a way to restore threads and people are on a journey to try and figure out how to restore a thread after it's been cut. Like, I see a lot of story potential coming from introducing an ability to cut the thread, but I also see a lot of potential pitfalls, like you were saying, where it could act as sort of a cop-out.
It'd be something you'd have to be careful of.
Yeah. This is why I'm like, it would have to be a very limited thing.
Yeah, you can't just cut threads for the fun of it, because then there's no point of everyone being able to see it. And the thing is, if
Oh,
you're trying to find someone, that person, everyone's gonna know you're trying to find that person because the thread goes out. Which I do like the idea if you're just minding your own business and suddenly like a thread crosses over your food or something, and you're like, oh, someone's thinking about someone.
I mean, you could.
You see a black thread cross your path, and you're like, and I'm out.
Yeah, given how the threads would be going everywhere, like, and they can be summoned. Like, I'm trying to think, like, why would you summon it in most cases?
I mean, is this a world without like cell phones or something? So it's just an easy way to find each other. I can see parents getting really good use out of this because missing children just aren't a thing in this world.
Yeah, but I also see all the different colored threads. Why would you ever want to use the black thread? Like, why would you want to find this person that you hate? Is like the only way I could think is you're planning on doing something horrible to this person. In which case, you've also now given them a warning.
Yeah, I guess the main use of it would just be to know someone's intentions, just in general. Because you'll always be able to know. You can always know if someone feels neutral to you, or if they like you, or if you're friends, or how they view you. I guess that depends. So if you're summoning the thread, is the thread that you summon only your feelings towards the person being shown, or does it allow you to see their relationship to you, or is it like when you summon the thread, there's like two threads, and one of them's yours and one of them is theirs, and they might be different?
I think that because people can feel differently towards each other, this would need to be two separate threads, or it would need to be one thread that is maybe sort of split in half, where one half of it is one color and the other half is another color, and
And they're kind of just intertwined or braided together or something like
yeah,
that.
either that or I was thinking like split down the middle. Like you wouldn't be able to really tell what the other person. Nah, I don't know. Maybe just two threads. Two threads sounds simpler, and you can only see yours, and you can
Yeah, and
only
they're
show
just twisted together.
and you can only show people yours. But
Well, then you have the dynamic where people don't know what other people think, but you can I guess, be confronted. Like, show me what you think of me.
yes,
And if you don't, I'm gonna be suspicious because I know you can.
yes,
Okay, we brought privacy back. This is just a concept I've been thinking about for a long time. Just the I think it'd be a really cool ability to have, even if you just picked a world where only a few people could do it, and where they could just decide to see people's threads. So instead of a world where everyone can see it, it's a world in which one or two people have that ability. And they can just touch a person and they can just see the connections if they want to.
yeah. I do think this is an interesting concept. Although, I don't know. I think this really, if there is that sense of, again, that privacy aspect, unless we were going down the route of introducing other elements to the thread, such as the ability to cut it, this doesn't seem like it would actually have that many major effects on how the rest of the world works. This is just one minor ability, in which case it would probably serve a story best if it were an element of a world and not like a core feature.
Mm-hmm.
So probably would be belonging to either one or a small handful of people, or maybe one society of people, one group of people, one race of people, or whatever. Just not a world where everyone has this ability. It's just one small element of the world.
It's just fun sometimes at least it's what we tend to do with small elements, is to imagine what happens if everyone has access to it.
Yeah, and sometimes that can be a really fun world. It's like, if everyone has access to it, how does this change the entire world? Like, if one person has the ability to fly, nothing changes in the world. But if everyone has the ability to fly, suddenly you gotta figure out how to manage, like, air traffic, and, like, figure out how fast are people able to fly, or there are regulations on flying, like, all this different stuff.
Yeah, because right now, if everyone can use the threads, we have a world where one kidnapping just doesn't happen, because someone will always be able to find the person. Like, so you don't have kidnapping. I think like adoption and that stuff can still happen, but parents are aware that their kids can still find them at any point unless they find a way to sever the ties, which we've agreed is a harder thing to do. um I'm trying to, I aesthetically, I guess it's something you just get used to, is seeing the threads shoot out every now and then.
Again,
Like it's just,
if you're in a world where there's a whole bunch of them, then yeah.
it's just not something you think about. I think like black ones are probably scarier than any others.
Well, black ones, it's like you just kind of nope on out of there. You just
Yeah. Like, oh, I wonder what's about to happen here.
like black threads are a very bad sign because at that point it's like they each person knows like what they think of each other, and generally you're only going to be showing the thread if you're trying to find that person that you don't like, meaning violence is about to break out.
You know, yeah, this is just a world almost where it's more, I guess, worse crimes almost are rarer or are a bit more avoidable.
Uh,
Like you're not gonna have things like the kidnapping or the, if someone's got like, and like homicides and stuff like that are harder. If they're gonna hunt someone down using the thread, there's a sign. And I'm sure, if mass done, like government's gonna be able to regulate and maybe even find a way to detect black threads and use that to their advantage to stop fights.
well, I'm thinking that like why wouldn't people, in terms of something like kidnapping, I could see being lower, but something like homicide, why wouldn't people just do it the same way they do normally, where they just don't have a thread? Like, if I'm trying to stealthily kill someone in this world, I'm just not gonna use the thread. I'm just gonna go to their home when after night falls and sneak in and kill them.
I mean, another interesting element though is, what if you could add messages, like use the threads to send messages?
Uh, how would that work? Like, what kinds of messages?
Oh, I don't know. That's just an idea.
Okay.
Like as another reason to have, so say this is a world in which you don't have things like cell phones and stuff like we do, that we can contact with each other often, and then you're far away from a person. Wouldn't it be cool to have a connection that you can actually use to like send messages and stay in contact? Because that's what the thread's supposed to do. It's supposed to connect people.
So would it essentially be telepathy?
Possibly. I feel like there have to be some limits, or else again we get like the spam of threads again,
Yeah, I'm also
and then it just becomes like cell phones, but you can
yeah,
see
but
it.
I'm also thinking about how we've already got a small problem with like cell phones, where we know 100 people, and then like 100 people are messaging us all day, and it takes up it
Yeah.
already takes up your time as it is. But at least, and currently what it is when 100 people send you messages, you don't have to answer them immediately. You can wait, set it off to the side. But if everyone is constantly sending little messages, it's just like you're out, out for a walk or going to work or something, and then you get a message. It's just like, honey, where do we keep the salt? And it's just constant. It's like, oh, okay, I found it. Oh, also, I'm gonna need another ingredient. Also, while you're out, could you get this thing? Oh, and by the way, have you heard what the Ben and Marcy, who lived down the street, did last week? Wasn't that an amazing experience? And like, just constant messages from just one person. Now multiply that by 100, and they're all coming in at the same time. And it's not even like cell phones. You can say, "Oh, hold on, I've got another call." Like they're just all in your ears all at once. It's a bunch of people talking to you. It's
I find it interesting. Do you have 100 friends, like connections?
I don't know how many I have, but they don't all contact me all at the same time. I have like maybe
Well,
five.
yeah, but like, and like genuine seriousness though, do you have who? Someone tell me how many deep connections do you think you actually have where you create threads? Because mine is definitely nowhere near 100.
Well, I know that some people would. I think is, I imagine in a world like this, there's a good chance that people would start using those threads. I don't know. Are the threads made automatically, or do people have to willingly create them?
I think they're made automatically because sometimes you just can't help it. Like, I don't think it's something you choose. I think it's just something. It's just your connection manifesting itself in a visual way. Because you don't get to choose the color. So I think that's definitely something outside of yourself that has to be creating it, and not you doing it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think.
Which makes me think that, like, some people could have. This could get really creepy, but if we have the whole two thread system, where only one is being shown and the other is not, then you could have a person make a connection with someone else with that person never making a connection with them. Yeah, so think of us as content creators, right? And we're online, and we're impacting people who we'll never meet.
I see where this is going.
Yeah, right? But, so we'll never meet these people. So we'll never make connections with them. But they're going to make connections with us that can be very personal in whatever way and have emotions and feelings. And now, they'll have, because of that, they'll have an ability to find us. And we can get...
No.
So, kidnapping maybe dropped down to, like, very little. But stalking, I think, just skyrocketed.
Oh, no. And you've
Yeah.
also got that problem where, you know how there's always, like, those fans who they make the connection with this person that's, like, their idol, the big pop star or whatever.
Yeah.
But that pop star has no idea who they are, and yet the fans, fan in particular, will expect the pop star to know exactly who they are. Because remember, one time I was in the crowd shouting at you, waving a heart sign 3 years ago. I was wearing a pink wig in the mosh pit. Do you remember? It's just like,
No.
okay. I have seen, like, millions of people in my audience during my concerts. Some of them slipped my mind.
By that I mean, like, all of them. Yeah, but that's the thing that happens. So, like, people who are celebrities and in the limelight, they struggle with not having enough privacy now. In a world like this, they'll have zero.
Okay, so do you have to be in the room with someone to make that connection? In which case, live concerts would be out the window.
True.
Actually, in that case, like, what happens if, like, performers and stuff wouldn't want to go out in public at all, because if someone sees them and recognizes them, then that connection can form. In which case, celebrities probably wouldn't be a thing. People would just avoid being... This would be a world where people would avoid being celebrities because it's just too dangerous.
Yeah, everyone would just want, like, their own... it's a world without that type of dynamic, so there wouldn't really be movies, or I bet books and stuff would still be a thing because people can do that anonymously. In which case that connection can't be made because you have no clue who wrote the stories and stuff, so I think that would still be a thing. And I think on a smaller scale, like, say, I don't know, like, I'm trying to think of a type of, like, I'm thinking, like, D&D classic worlds with, like, taverns and stuff like that. Like, a bard could still perform their performances and make connections and not get followed around too badly. Because I think the risk, everyone's going to have that risk. If someone decides they want to stalk you, or they, like, find you attractive in a very creepy way, and you don't even see them, then there's nothing you can do. They've formed a thread. You don't know about it, except occasionally you see it. And I do think that would be a very awkward, an alarming color to notice. So the color would still give it away, so you'd know if you have a stalker. And I think you could call someone about that, or find someone to stop that. And you can find them as well. So there is that. There is some sort of protection in their method of finding you being a very obvious way to you that they're trying to find you.
And then you've got the situations of, like, someone who is your stalker express their love as just like, show me your thread as well. And you're just like, okay, here it is. And there is no thread. Or maybe there is a thread. Now the connection has been made. And It's like
It's black because you're
brown. No, it's
creeped,
not.
or
It's
yeah,
not just black. It's like it's brown for I don't care.
like a beige. There's just no color whatsoever.
Yes. It's like it's there. It's more like you are an annoyance. Like that's what the beige color is you annoy me.
I do not care about you, you weirdo. Please go away. And I'm sure it could easily like darken or blacken or something for disgust and things like that if they try something.
Yeah, absolutely. But then once that person feels that hurt,
Oh, they could also have the blacken.
yeah, it'll either turn black or it will turn blue for heartbreak.
Or sad, yeah. And again, I think, seeing as there's only one thread, I think there could be multiple colors in a thread. Like, if you love someone and they break your heart, sure, that's going to be expressed, but that doesn't always mean you stop loving the person.
Yeah.
I was going to use a Harry Potter reference, but you're not going to get that, so I won't.
I will, though, eventually. At some point.
Yeah, but it really spoils the movies, so I'm not going to do it.
Oh, that's okay then.
There's a character in the movies of Harry Potter who those who know Harry Potter will understand exactly who I'm talking about, who I think would have that thread where it's love and then there's like the blue for heartbreak in it, but it's still the red. Or at the heart of it.
Dobby and Voldemort.
Goodness, no. I don't even think they ever interact. Like, Voldemort doesn't know who Dobby is.
Oh, I have no idea.
That's fine. You'll
my
find
Harry
out
Potter
eventually.
knowledge is just very limited.
Honestly, the fact you know who Dobby is was impressive.
I was just trying to think, like, what seems like it would be a really weird connection in Harry Potter with my little...
I didn't say it was a weird connection. I said it was a love connection with a heartbreak involved.
I know. That's why I was trying to come up with a weird connection. And so I'm like Dobby and Voldemort.
Yeah, that would be a weird connection, alright.
Do we want to world build, like, is there a source of the magic for these threads? Or do we want to just say they exist?
They come from individual people. I don't think there's a magical source to it.
Okay, so they just kind of exist in the world.
Yeah. It's a fated thing. You can't really avoid it.
In which case, I have no idea where to further world build this idea. So instead, what I'm thinking we could do is come up with fun scenarios as to where people would find themselves seeing these threads. One idea came to me earlier when you were talking about like just the black thread going across the dinner plate. I'm imagining this guy eating spaghetti as he's trying to like twirl his fork, and then he's just like, honey, why is the spaghetti black? And then next thing you know, there's like the Hulk versus the Thing. They just smash in the two walls on either side of you, arguing over who's stronger, and then they start flipping the dinner table at each other, and you're just like, oh, that's not spaghetti. I had better run for my life now.
Yeah. Again, we have like the awkward love triangles where I guess I think it's honestly more awkward for like I guess it's usually a girl and two guys, so it's more awkward for the girl, honestly, because she's the one whose thread they want to see. They could care less of it. They already know how the dynamic works, but she's the one who has to like keep it to herself and try to calm everyone down. But then again, maybe love triangles don't happen as much because she can just be like, look, it's just silver. It's just silver for both of you. I'm sorry. That's all there is. That's all I've got.
And then suddenly their threads turn blue.
You got the blue, and then you're like, oh, and then you just look at them like, well, sorry. Maybe we can work past this, but.
And then it turns from blue and it slowly turns black. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, and so the two guys that originally hated each other, whose thread was black, suddenly it turns silver, and they become allied against this girl. And they become the best of friends.
I mean, they can bond over heartbreak, but turning against the girl just because she can't have feelings for the guy seems a little harsh.
But some people will do it.
I know, that seems a little harsh.
It is, but I'm picking harsh people just so that I can get this weird and funny scenario.
Okay. Yeah, that could be a thing that happens. I guess a part of weddings actually might be like the whole thread thing, like proving you love each other by showing off the thread at a wedding. So if there's ever any it'd be hard to have a wedding if you're doubting how you feel about someone, because then they'll see it.
Yeah, and then it's like after they see the thread, it's just like, if anyone objects to this union, speak now or forever hold your peace. And then one guy with a black thread stands up.
That's the truth. Those objections just got a lot more colorful.
That's gonna be the girl's parents standing up, and the black thread is connected to the
guy because they hate him.
Yes.
Oh no. Yeah, and they kept it to themselves, but now that it's wedding day, they're willing to show their true colors and how they feel.
Or it's gonna be like, or maybe what they'd say is, speak now or forever hold your threads.
Instead of peace. Yeah.
Yes.
But I think that would be how you'd have to object, is you'd have to physically show like the thread. I think the thread would become a lot of ceremony and friendship things and ties, and like best friends are cute now because you have like two little kids with like silver threads wrapped around each other, and they're like, we're best friends. That just seems cute. I don't think it's gonna like drastically change the world, but I think it would add a fun element to it.
Yeah, this is definitely more of an element-based episode.
We haven't done one of those in a while,
world.
so...
Yeah. This is just like probably one small thing you'd give to either an individual or a handful of the individuals. Or maybe you would make it a smaller part of a much larger magic system that is somehow based around emotional connections to people. It may be some sort of a spell that you could cast so that now you have these strings attached to people. Maybe it's because you need to monitor people's connections, and so that you cast that spell to create the threads. Something along those lines, where it's a much smaller element of a much grander world.
I'm not gonna lie, I've been slowly developing an idea for like a TV show based off of the podcast.
Oh.
And that's one of the reasons why I want to talk about this, because now I can actually incorporate the thread idea into the TV show idea. That I will not share in here, because this is one I'm keeping. They can't have it.
Okay.
We'll see if I do anything with it or not, but...
You're planning on launching a TV show?
I think it would... as much as I love writing books, I think it would be a more interesting TV show than book. I think the visual aspect would be more enjoyable as a movie or two. And I think there's too much depth into what I'm developing for it to be just a movie.
Yeah.
It's just a fun world-hopping journey.
Anyway, I don't think there's really anywhere else. This is a very, very short episode.
Not really, we're past 30 minutes.
It's still pretty darn short, and a lot of this was just us coming up with weird scenarios like Spaghetti Hulk. And love triangles, and the objective parents.
Element ones tend to end up this way. They tend to be shorter than, say, trying to build an entire world. And that's okay. But it's just gonna be a short one this week, guys, but I'm sure people don't mind. It means you guys have 30 minutes to do something else with your lives. Enjoy that. Go outside. Go take a 30-minute walk now.
Go listen to another one of our episodes.
Or you could do that. That works too. Anyways, I guess we'll end it here and say bye.
Take those 30 minutes to press the subscribe button 31 times. Just once.
What if they're already subscribed to us?
If you're already subscribed, do it 32 times.
Okay.
Just once every minute.
Yeah, so just stare at your screen and every minute click a button.
If you want to do more with your clicking, you could click the like button again 31 times.
All right, and we're gonna leave it on that note. Whatever that note was. All right, bye guys.
Goodbye.